This is the Rad Power Bikes RadRunner 2. We like the new color of this utility e-bike so much that we wanted to do a fresh review and show off what the bike can do. So what makes the RadRunner 2 stand out? Let's take a ride and find out. Hey everyone, I'm John with Electric Bike Report. We'll get started here in just a sec, but before we do, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can see our content as soon as it drops. So you might be aware that we reviewed the newest version of the RadRunner, that's the RadRunner 3 Plus, earlier this year. So why are we coming back to this one? First, we absolutely love the new Pool Shark Blue paint job that uses crystal glass pigments to make the bike stand out a little better at night. But the bottom line is just that it is a really versatile and affordable e-bike. We really liked the upgrades on the RadRunner 3, but for what the RadRunner 2 can do, you really can't beat the price. Its list price is around $1,500, and we think that's pretty much unbeatable for a bike that you can use for commuting, picking up groceries, taking the kids out for an evening, or just going for a long weekend ride. As a utility e-bike, the RadRunner is able to do all of those things because of its design. The integrated rear rack here has a capacity of up to 120 pounds, and it has a lot of the same functionality as what you'd get with a dedicated cargo bike, just without all the bulk of a huge extended frame. It's also compatible with a really big range of accessories. Rad currently offers over 50 different items in their store, and those include cargo baskets, bins and bags, passenger seating, pet carriers, and also quality of life upgrades like side mirrors, phone mounts, and lots more. One more big aspect that we liked about the RadRunner 2 is just the bike's overall comfort level. It has a super relaxed upright riding position with ergonomic grips and high-rise handlebars, and it just feels really natural and comfortable to ride. There are a couple of upgrades we'd recommend, but the foundation here is awesome, and we'll save those details for a little bit later in the review. But let's run through the bike's list of specs and components to show you what comes with it. This is an e-bike after all, so the motor and battery are essential. The bike uses a 750 watt rear hub motor with a cadence sensor and a 48 volt, 672 watt hour battery, which is behind the seat post. There are a few trade-offs with the RadRunner 2 that help to keep its cost so low, but we didn't feel like they were sacrifices, and in fact they have some advantages. First, there's a single-speed drivetrain with a 53-tooth chainring and a 16-tooth cog on the freewheel, so you don't have to worry about shifting. There are Tektro MD300 or Aries mechanical disc brakes with 180mm rotors, which are easier to maintain than a hydraulic system. And lastly, there's no display on the bike, but the control panel on the left handlebar uses LED indicator lights to show battery charge, your current pedal assist setting, and if the light system is activated. The bike comes with basic accessories like the headlight, a tail light with brake light functionality, a small bell integrated into the front brake lever on the left bar, a half-twist throttle lever on the right, and the bike even has a chain guard, which we always appreciate. But then both the moped-style saddle and the 20-inch by 3.3-inch fat tires are custom. The tires are made in partnership with Kenda, and they have this cool, chunky checkerboard texture. But that about covers all the basics, so let's dive into our testing and see how the RadRunner 2 stacks up. The RadRunner 2 is a Class 2 e-bike with both its throttle and pedal assist system limited to 20 miles per hour. So for our brake test, we brought the bike up to that limit and then hit the brakes and then measured how long the bike took to stop. The RadRunner 2's average stopping distance after 3 of those same tests was 19 feet 8 inches, which first of all is a great result, but there's more than just one reason why. Utility e-bikes with a similar design to this are usually some of our best performers in this test, but the RadRunner 2 beat out most of the competition. Our average for all of the e-bikes we've tested in this category is 20 feet 9 inches, so the RadRunner 2 was 13 inches better than average. We usually prefer hydraulic disc brakes because of their improved responsiveness and at least usually overall better stopping power, but here we were really happy with the Tektro Aries system. The RadRunner 2 weighs 65 pounds including its battery, which is 10 to 20 pounds less than almost all of those other utility e-bikes we've tested, so this bike is easier to stop and ultimately doesn't need that hydraulic system. So we give it 2 thumbs up in this test. I took the RadRunner 2 out for a speed test to see how fast it could go in each pedal assist setting, and also to find out how quickly its throttle could reach top speed. Let's take a look at how the bike performed. All right, we are here on the Rad Power Bikes RadRunner 2 to do a speed test, and riding here with no help from the motor, kind of going, 10.5, 11 miles per hour with no pedal assistance whatsoever. So let's go up to PAS1, see what happens. And I'm feeling a little bit of a difference here, but definitely the power level is pretty minimal. Not anything huge. Getting a little bit of a boost. Looks like kind of around 11, maybe up to 11.5 miles per hour or so. So let's go up to PAS2 and see what happens. Definitely more noticeable power here for sure. I'm actually gonna kind of start relaxing into ghost pedaling at this point and just kind of let the motor build in power and speed here. We are still going. I mean, the ride is very smooth and easy. That's all I'll say here. Looks like we're landing kind of around 15.5 miles per hour. So let's go up to PAS3 and see what happens there. Get around this bend, but we're still building a little bit. And looks like we kind of hit 20 there, but we're kind of backing down a little bit under that for a more steady speed. So right around 19.5 or so. Let's go up to PAS4 and see if that does anything different. No, kind of about the same. 19.5, yeah, for sure. So all right, let us call that our speed test on the Rad Power Bikes RadRunner 2. And let's see how that throttle does now. Okay, we are here on the Rad Power Bikes RadRunner 2 to do a throttle acceleration test from 0 to 20. So we'll start in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, building nice and steadily. Picking up. And 19.9 was the max. So with a cadence sensor, I didn't have to keep my pedaling active, so I spent most of the test just soft pedaling to show off what the motor could do, but there was one exception to that when I had the pedal assist system deactivated. I got the bike up to 10.9 miles per hour there, which took some serious effort as that big 53 tooth chainring is not super easy to move without the motor. In PAS1, I felt a slight bit of power that kind of counteracted the big chainring, so pedaling became really easy, but not super fast. I hit 11.5 miles per hour there. PAS2 felt really comfortable and easy with a max of 15.4 miles per hour, and then PAS3 and 4 both had a max speed of 19.5 miles per hour. We really like it when bikes use fewer than 5 PAS settings, which is sort of standard in the industry, especially if they're Class 2s. It usually just makes bikes like that easier to use, in our opinion. It might seem odd that both PAS 3 and 4 hit the same max speed with the RadRunner 2, but we actually really like the power distribution here. PAS 1 felt more like a regular bike, and then the power level increased consistently up to PAS 2 and again up to PAS 3. We found that PAS 4 made a difference on hills, but for riding on flat ground, there are really just 3 practical PAS settings, which simplifies things even more. Factor in the fact that you don't have to shift gears with this bike, and it just feels really natural and intuitive to use. From our point of view, this is an absolutely fantastic setup, and we think Rad totally nailed it. Rad Power Bikes states that the RadRunner 2 has a range of 25 to 45 plus miles with its 672 watt-hour battery, so we did 2 range tests to make sure that was accurate. We pedaled the bike until its battery died in PAS 4 and PAS 2 to establish a similar bracket, and we ended up with between 32.7 and 42.7 miles of range. Now, we chose PAS 2 for our low power test just because we think most riders will use that setting over the very small amount of assistance in PAS 1, so if you do use that lowest setting, you might do a little better than we did. But overall, we're really happy with these results. The bike did quite a bit better than its specs suggested it would. We usually prefer to see the watt-hour rating of the battery meet or exceed the nominal wattage of the motor, so with the 672 watt-hours here, the RadRunner 2 was a bit short. The bike's range in PAS 2 definitely ended up on the lower end of things when compared to many of the similar e-bikes we've tested, but it also had a smaller battery capacity than most of those other ones, so that's not a huge surprise. Based on the motor and battery specs, we expected our PAS 4 test to last around 55 minutes and give us about 17.5 miles. But obviously the bike did way better, and we got a little over double the expected amount of time on the bike. Bottom line, the RadRunner 2 might not be a range test champion, but it still did a solid job, and it definitely has the range to make it practical for all of the things it can do. 33-ish miles with max power is still plenty for a serious commute, and if you're taking the kids out for short rides, you'll probably get quite a few rides in before needing to recharge. To see how the RadRunner 2 did in our hill test, I'm gonna pass you off to Justin. He did 2 separate tests at the infamous Hellhole Trail to see if the bike could conquer a super steep hill, so I'll let him share his experience.
We are now on the RadRunner 2 throttle test. This is their new, I believe it's shark blue color. Gotta say I'm a big fan of the color. Not that that has anything to do with the hill test, but just a big fan. So climbing right now, this actually doesn't have a speedometer on it, so I can't necessarily tell you the speed, but my guess is I'm probably down around 7-8 miles per hour through here. As far as the feel of the motor, it has a good steady feel to it, where it's not like super jerky. It just feels nice and consistent. I can kind of modulate that with this twist throttle on the right hand side. And so we'll kind of see how that plays out on the results. Sound-wise, the motor is a little bit quieter than some of the rear hubs. I've kind of noticed that with Rad. Just a nice sound. It's definitely there, but you kind of forget it in the background. I'll let you listen to it through this last punchy climb section. So yeah, again, you hear it a little more as speed picks up. But overall, pretty good sounding motor, pretty solid feeling motor. Doesn't feel like a rocket ship. And I think for a lot of people that actually ride these bikes, that's probably a good thing. The fact that I'm able to throttle up Hellhole is more impressive than you probably realize if you watch a lot of our videos. So we'll go to the tape and see how it compares. Now on to the pedal test with RadRunner 2. And, you know, as a single gear bike, won't be any shifting. So we'll see how this does. It's kind of that tight balance where you want to be able to make it so people go up a hill, but you don't ghost pedal on the flats. So I'm not going to be pushing too hard on this. I'm going to kind of treat it like that soft pedal like I do most rear hubs that have cadence sensor motors, and see how it does. So far, through that first really steep section, it's been fine. I did not have to push much at all. So if you're someone, you know, who hasn't ridden in 50 years and you're worried about climbing a hill, I can already tell you, I mean, this is going to get you up even if you want to pedal. I'll let you listen through this next section so you can hear the motor as I pedal. Yeah, kind of a lower decibel whine to it. As you kind of get in the lower gears, then that gets a little higher pitch as you get moving the pedals a little bit faster. And we'll see how this kind of compares to the other Rad bikes and other kind of utility style bikes. For me, it feels pretty measured and controlled, but consistent on the power side. Not, like I mentioned before, not a rocket ship, but I think it's going to be pretty respectable and definitely easy to climb hell hole with.
So the bike made it up the hill without struggling both times, and that's really important to point out because it's definitely on the slower side when going just by the numbers. Justin's throttle time was 1 minute and 41 seconds with an average speed of 10.7 miles per hour. And in the pedal test, he made it to the top in 1:30 at 12.1 miles per hour. Interestingly, with the throttle, the RadRunner 2 here actually did better than the RadRunner 3 Plus, which I did not expect. But the 3 did beat the 2 by a little bit on the pedal side. There were a few things that Justin mentioned in passing during his clip that I kind of want to focus on here because Rad's bikes aren't the fastest in general, but the company does really put a big focus on safety and reliability. Justin used the words steady and consistent, and those are the same things that came to my mind before he and I even talked about the bike. Rad keeps their power levels a bit more conservative, but they're no less capable because of that, and clearly the RadRunner 2 can handle just about anything you want to throw at it. Like the story of the tortoise and the hare, sometimes slow and steady wins the race. Let's take the RadRunner 2 out for one more spin before we wrap things up. We'll go over the main elements of its ride quality and then go over a few more details back here. Okay, so we are here on the Rad Power Bikes RadRunner 2 to show you what it's like to ride. And this is a utility e-bike from Rad that has a really nice upright riding position. So number one, that's really comfortable, and number two, it gives you really good visibility. There's just a single frame size here, but the bike actually fits a really nice range of riders, down to 4'11" and up to 6'2". And that's basically just because of all of the points of adjustment here. So you get about 13 inches of saddle height adjustment with the seat post, and then with the standard style stem here, you can't really adjust your handlebar height, but just because of the BMX style riser bars here, you can loosen up the stem with an Allen wrench and then rotate those handlebars to adjust your reach, which is how far your arms are outstretched. Right now I have it set very comfortably where there's a nice little bend in my elbows. It just feels very natural. So there is no suspension here, it's a rigid frame, but you do get some cushioning from the tires. Those are made in partnership with Kenda. They are custom 20-inch by 3.3-inch fat tires. So those help to absorb some bumps. They give you solid traction. And then if you want a little bit of additional cushioning, you can air them down just a little bit so that they're even softer. But let's talk about that motor as well. That is a 750 watt rear hub motor that uses a cadence sensor. So I'm going to sort of demonstrate how quickly that engages here. I'm going to bump it up to PAS4 and kind of coast, hit the brakes a little bit, slow myself down, and I'm going to move the pedals and show you when that motor kicks in. So we'll do that now. So I got about a half rotation of the cranks before the motor kicked in, which, you know, pretty slight delay, took about a second, so not too bad. But let's bounce back to the studio and talk a little bit more. So again, comfort is a big thing here, although I mentioned earlier that we had some suggestions for a few upgrades. We really like the overall geometry, positioning, and ergonomics of the frame, but we definitely recommend swapping out the saddle to something a bit less blocky. I think this one works fine for short rides, and it's not a deal breaker because it's easy to replace, but it definitely felt a little bit awkward. Another thing to be aware of is the downside of not having a display on the bike. I found myself a bit more able to enjoy the scenery since I didn't have a screen in my face, but there's no way to monitor your speed or track your mileage with the standard setup here. Again, this wasn't a deal breaker just because of some of Rad's optional accessories. You can buy an LCD separately for about $100, and there's plenty of real estate on the handlebars for a phone mount if you want to go that route. We use Strava for a lot of our data tracking, but there are plenty of options that can definitely help you out there. Accessories are something that this bike does really well though. Rad says that there are over 330 possible combinations, and we didn't fact check them on that, but the list is pretty impressive. They even have a few kits that can be added at checkout to make it easier to outfit the bike for passengers or storage, so definitely keep that in mind. The overall experience of the RadRunner 2 was great. The general ride feel is pretty relaxed and casual here, but the bike also has plenty of power if you're in a hurry. It handles really well and it's really maneuverable, and we liked how easy it was to operate in general. Bottom line, we give it again 2 solid thumbs up. After completely reevaluating the RadRunner 2, our opinion of the bike hasn't changed at all. It's not perfect, but our points of critique are surface level. The foundation here is awesome, and I think that's proven by just how many other e-bikes out there essentially just copy and pasted its design. This is very solidly a Rad Power bike. It's meticulously crafted, it's very well thought out, and it has that blend of conservative yet powerful, very well balanced. This is a bike that can do a bit of everything, and it embodies Rad's goal of getting people out of cars and onto bikes. It did a solid job across the board in our testing, and we didn't expect anything less. If you're looking for an affordable e-bike to help encourage a healthier lifestyle without any big sacrifices in terms of functionality, we highly recommend the RadRunner 2. We'll leave a link to Rad's website in the video description down below if you want to take a closer look at that. And we ask that you do use that link if you decide to make a purchase, as it lets us know you appreciate our hard work, and it also won't cost you anything extra. We'll leave another link to our written review down there that goes into even more detail, but until next time, thanks for watching. Again, I'm John with Electric Bike Report, and this is the Rad Power Bikes RadRunner 2.